Welcome to the Young Turks. Cenk Uygur and Anna Kasparian with you guys. So, do I have to tell you standard fare disastrous news?
Yes. I guess. I don't know why I've been saying that a lot more than you lately.
Yeah, well, I don't know why, but I can guess why. All right, anyways, so usual Biden weakness and capitulation and horribleness, usual Republican monsters. In fact, we're going to start with that, so let's get to it.
Let's do it.
An Ohio man is being charged with the rape of a 10-year-old girl who needed to travel out of state to Indiana for an abortion. The case drew national attention. It also drew a lot of scrutiny in the wake of the Supreme Court's decision to overturn Roe v. Wade.
That's right. The man that you saw in that image is 27-year-old Gershon Fuentes, who raped a 10-year-old. In fact, he raped this girl not once but twice. First time when she was only 9 years old, and then impregnated her. And when she was pregnant in the state of Ohio, where she was unable to get an abortion, her family had to travel to another state, Indiana, in order to get an abortion so she wouldn't be further victimized by forced pregnancy and forced child delivery, giving birth to her rapist child. I wanna just make sure you keep in mind, we're talking about a 10-year-old. I was like 80 pounds when I was 10 years old. And I want you to keep that in mind as we later discuss what a woman's body goes through, what a person's body goes through as she is delivering a baby. Now, before we get to that though, I wanna talk about all of the right wingers who seem to have a significant interest in denying that this story was real. Now, when we're talking about rape victims, there are privacy concerns, especially when we're dealing with a minor. So when the story was first reported, we didn't know what her identity is. We still don't know what her identity is. I hope we never know what her identity is. But we didn't know anything about the perpetrator either. And that was exactly what the right wing exploited to try to throw cold water on this, to make it seem as though, no, this is impossible. This is just made up. The left wing is using this to politicize the issue of abortion, of rape, of the brutality that the right wing is inflicting upon women and girls in this country. Now, let's get to the individuals who seem to have an interest in discrediting the story in the first place. Let's start off with Jesse Waters, who had a woman by the name of Megan Fox from PJ Media to try to throw cold water on the story.
No one has called me to say you're wrong. This story is corroborated. There is a police report. I have FOIAs out at several different government organizations in Ohio and Indiana looking for the report. Dr. Caitlin Bernard, like you said, is a mandated reporter. She has to report child rape. This is a horrific story being used to divide Americans, being used to outrage people, being used as a political weapon. And that was one of the main red flags to me, Jesse.
So there she is, trying to discredit the story because no one's responding to her request for comment. When it was later confirmed that this was in fact a real story, and let's also be clear, there are many other underage girls who are raped in this country, who become pregnant as a result of that rape in this country. She didn't take any responsibility for her lies, for her efforts to discredit the story. She immediately tweets in response to someone who tells her to delete her account and calls her a hack because she is. She says, quote, "I should delete my account for exposing that no media was looking for a rapist and was only interested in political weaponization of child rape. Would this arrest have happened if no one asked questions about the shoddy reporting of this heinous act? I'm glad someone was arrested." Well, as Parker Malloy very clearly stated, and the reporting confirms this, yeah, the police referral was actually made on June 22nd. So Megan Fox, you're not a hero. If anything, you support a political ideology that brutalizes young girls and women in this country, and you're a disgusting person for doing it. Cenk, go ahead.
So the charge that's most absurd is you guys are politicizing abortion. That's what the Republican Party has been doing for the last 50 years. They've been on a warpath. They told every one of their voters, don't worry about any of the other issues. Don't worry that we're robbing you blind and we're gonna keep your wages low. Vote only on abortion. And now they turn around and say, I can't believe you're politicizing abortion. Okay, don't make it illegal and doesn't have to be political at all. It's just the most absurd thing you've ever heard.
You know what politicizes abortions? Having right-wing grifter, culture warrior Republican lawmakers get in between women and their doctors, girls and their doctors. That is what politicizes this issue. Go ahead.
Yeah, so they don't like this story because it makes them look like monsters. You know why? Because they are monsters. Because their position is she should not have been allowed to get an abortion. That 10-year-old should have somehow carried any child to term, let alone her rapist child. And you know that at birth, there's an excellent chance she would die. She's just 10. Birth is very, very difficult. And they're saying, I don't care, I don't care. This is the pro-life party, pro-life, right? So they're monsters, they're absolute sick monsters. So in order to cover up, like, it didn't happen, I don't believe it.
They should be defended. I mean, look, as soon as that story came out, why was the first instinct to discredit that story when in reality, I mean, their first instinct should be to defend the laws that are now in place in Ohio. These are the laws that why are you not championing this legislation, this law? It's not even legislation in Ohio, it is now the law of that state. I mean, shouldn't you be defending it?
Yeah, Anna, I was gonna say, shouldn't you be proud? I mean, this is what you fought for 50 years.
Yeah.
Congratulations, you finally got it. So shouldn't you be out there going like, yes, make that 10-year-old have the rapist baby. Hey, it's your law, not my law. I hate the law. You say it was your whole reason for existence for a lot of your voters. The only reason they ever voted. This is so important to them. Aren't you offending your voters who want this kind of vicious action against 10-year-olds? That's hate. It's not my goddamn law. It's your goddamn law. So are you in favor of it? Are you proud of it? Or are you embarrassed? Because it's obvious that you're the bad guys.
Know they're the bad guys. They know that they rely on manufactured culture wars, war against women, war against members of the LGBTQ community, any culture war necessary to deflect and distract from the fact that they have nothing to offer the American people. The right wing in America relies on politics of fear, politics of misery. Think about it. Think about everything that they engage in policy-wise, everything that they promote policy-wise. It's not about making anyone's life better. It's all about making certain groups of people's lives more difficult, more miserable. It's about directing hatred toward those groups of people. It's about being suspicious and scared of those groups of people. That's all they offer. And my question is, for the Republican voters out there who, for some reason, are enamored with those types of policies, have you taken a moment to just sit back for a second and ask yourself whether or not making other fellow Americans' lives miserable, whether brutalizing other fellow Americans is making your life happier? Because I would venture to say, just based on the rage that we see from right-wing voters on a daily basis, they seem pretty miserable themselves. So maybe it's time to kind of recalibrate your approach to politics. Maybe it's time to look at certain candidates and ask yourselves, hey, is this someone who's actually going to fight to represent my best interests rather than just simply making other people miserable? And speaking of making other people miserable, just briefly, let's talk about the pregnancy process and more importantly, the childbirth process. Now, if you're an adult woman, you've been planning a pregnancy, you're excited to have a baby, you are mentally prepared for it, you are educated about it, your body, since you're an adult, is likely far more prepared to give birth to a baby compared to a literal 10-year-old. 10-year-old. Think about how tiny a 10-year-old is. Now think about that 10-year-old being forced to carry her rapist baby for 9 months. And then after that, what happens during childbirth? How long is labor? Because I mean, it fluctuates, right? Some women, it could be quick. Other women, it could take 24 hours to be in labor.
Or longer.
Or longer. Okay, then let's talk about what the child, when you're delivering the baby, what is that like? So when a 10-year-old who had been a rape victim and got impregnated by that rapist, Would she be forced to do this through a vaginal birth? No, think about it. I want the right wing, I want everyone to think about it. I know it's super uncomfortable, it's disgusting. I wish we were not in a position to have to think about this. Think about a 10-year-old with her tiny body being forced to do a vaginal delivery after she's been raped. How traumatic that is. Or maybe since she's so tiny, her body is unable to handle a vaginal birth. They might do a C-section instead, right? I have not been in a room where a woman has had to have a C-section. I know you have been in a room where that's happened. What is that like, Cenk?
They have to take out a lot of the inner intestines, et cetera, and put it on your stomach or your chest while they're taking the baby out. So it is a gruesome operation. Thank God for modern medicine that they do a good job afterwards of making sure the mom is okay. But you're really gonna do that to a 10-year-old?
Who was raped and impregnated by that rape. You're gonna make her go through that traumatic experience. Let's go to graphic 8 here. So during a cesarean section, a cut is made through your skin and the wall of your abdomen. This will be either horizontal or vertical. The abdominal muscles are separated to allow access to your uterus, but they're not done cutting you up yet. Another cut, either horizontal or vertical, is made in the wall of your uterus. The baby is delivered through these incisions. And by the way, as you can imagine, in a country where we have far higher maternal mortality rates than other developed countries, it's especially dangerous for a 10-year-old to go through this process, right? Her life very likely will be in danger through this process. In fact, I'm not just guessing. There are many studies proving this. Let me note one of them. Here's an excerpt. Early childbirth is especially dangerous for adolescents. In this case, we're not even talking about an adolescent, we're talking about a literal child, a 10-year-old, and their infants. Compared to women between ages 20 to 35, pregnant women under 20 are at greater risk for death and disease, including bleeding during pregnancy, toxemia, hemorrhage, prolonged and difficult labor, severe anemia, and disability. Great, yeah, super pro-life of the right wing in this country to force a 10-year-old to go through this.
Yeah, so then one of the guys who didn't believe it, there's tons, of course, Jesse Waters, so many other Republicans and
Jim Jordan.
So Jim Jordan's a particularly interesting one. He's like, oh, like there was sexual abuse and it didn't get reported. Oh my God, Jim Jordan was a wrestling coach when a doctor on that same team sexually molested dozens of wrestlers. And a lot of them have now come forward and said, yeah, Jim Jordan knew. For a fact, he knew. We told him, can you please get him to stop molesting us and the students? And Jim Jordan protected the molester instead of protecting the kids. Now, it's not surprising that he says, who cares about the 10-year-old? Because he's been abusing kids and helping to abuse kids his whole life. Okay, and but then he says, oh, no, I don't even believe it. And then of course afterwards he deleted the tweet, and now they've all pivoted, which is what we're gonna talk about next, to blaming the doctor who did the abortion, because they're saying she is the one who should get in criminal trouble. They are disgusting people. So the Joe Bidens of the world and every stupid reporter in Washington keeps saying, oh, bipartisanship is so important. You need to hold hands with Republicans and say how great they are. No deal. We need to fight Republicans and we need to beat Republicans. If you see a Democrat kissing a Republican's ass, know that they are not on your side. Go fight them. These people are goddamn monsters.
Well, let's talk about how the right wing has now pivoted after the story of the 10-year-old being raped and impregnated by her rapist has been confirmed and corroborated. Let's get to the next story.
Then we have this abortion activist acting as a doctor with a history of failing to report. So we're gathering the information, we're gathering the evidence as we speak, and we're going to fight this to the end.
The man you just heard from is Indiana's Republican Attorney General, and he says that his office is now planning to investigate the gynecologist/obstetrician who has performed an abortion on a 10-year-old rape victim from out of state. The 10-year-old rape victim had to travel out of the state of Ohio, where abortion has now been outlawed, even in the case of rape and incest, to the state of Indiana, where she was luckily able to obtain this abortion. Now, the Republican Attorney General in Indiana, Todd Rokita, has decided, maybe this abortion doctor is the person who needs to be investigated here. Because there's much more concern about demonizing and going after the doctor here, rather than maybe recalibrating their approach when it comes to these anti-abortion laws. So he says, we're gathering the evidence as we speak, and we're going to fight this to the end, including looking at her licensure if she failed to report. And in Indiana, it's a crime to intentionally not report. Now, I don't know whether she reported or not. What I do know is that this crime was obviously reported to the authorities, which is why Gershon Fuentes, the 27-year-old rapist, has been arrested. And I just think it's fascinating that they want to go after the doctor. It's just really interesting priorities here. He also says this is a child, and there's a strong public interest in understanding if someone under the age of 16 or under the age of 18, or really any woman, is having abortion in our state. That is what the priority is. And then if a child is being sexually abused, of course parents need to know, authorities need to know, public policy experts need to know. Well, Todd, everyone knows, homeboy, everyone knows, including you. And your number one reaction is, wait, are people getting abortions in my state, in the state of Indiana, including 10-year-old rape victims? So, I want to just quickly talk about how much these lawmakers, how much that attorney general in the state of Indiana does not care about rape. Clearly, they don't care about rape, because Indiana happens to be one of the states with an insanely high number of untested rape kits. In fact, the number just keeps climbing. They just refuse to do anything about it. So in case you don't know what rape kits are, if a person gets raped, okay, and they decide to report it to the authorities, they can give DNA evidence of that rape, right? And that is tested to see if they can find the perpetrator, to have evidence of the rape that took place, so a prosecution can move forward, right? To get that rapist off the streets. Well, according to a report by the Indiana State Police, there were 4,980 untested rape kits in Indiana in 2017. But don't worry, the number actually got higher as the years went on. A media report by Fox 59 said there were 5,000 untested kits in Indiana in 2021. But even that, by the way, is an underestimate, because would you look at that? Here's a local news report from Marion County where they found a backlog of 6,600 sexual assault kits to be tested in one county in Indiana. What are you doing, homeboy? Got a bunch of rapists running around, you got a bunch of rape kits that are untested, doesn't care. Instead, he's going to investigate a gynecologist for performing an abortion on a rape victim, a 10-year-old rape victim. By the way, right now in Indiana, abortion is still legal up to 22 weeks. So the gynecologist here didn't do anything wrong.
So let me give you more details on what she didn't do wrong. So he says, well, she had to report the rape. Wait a minute, the rape happened in Ohio, not in Indiana. It has nothing to do with her jurisdiction. Also, good news, the rape was reported on June 22nd. It was already reported. The guy has been arrested. He was in court today. So what would she have to report weeks later when she actually did the abortion? So, she didn't report. No, it was already reported. There was nothing else left to do. So it's a lie. The whole thing's a goddamn lie, because honestly, almost every Republican politician in the country is a massive liar. You should always assume when they open their mouths that they're lying. So there was no violation at all. It's a different state and it was reported. Then he says, oh, well, it might be a HIPAA violation, violating that girl's privacy. It's the same guys who were saying yesterday, oh, we don't know who it is. Totally. I bet they're lying. 100%. Show us who it is. Show us. Oh, they showed us. I can't believe it. They violated her privacy. Now, by the way, they did not violate her privacy. They showed that the rapist was arrested. They showed the rapist, not the girl. But it doesn't matter. They're filthy liars. So they just go out there and go, oh yeah, HIPAA violation. First they want the HIPAA violation, then they pretend that they care about it. Now, to give you a sense of what a lunatic idiot Rokita is, he continued to talk about this and he said, Marxists and socialists and those in the White House who want lawlessness at the border are responsible. Why? The guy's the rapist was an undocumented
No,
immigrant.
you're responsible. People like you who let rapists roam free because you refuse to test rape kits in your state, you're responsible. You love women being brutalized like this. They love it, they love it. That's why every talking point you hear out of their mouths is not about ensuring that this 10-year-old girl is not victimized by their policies, by rapists. Everything they say is meant to demonize the doctor in Indiana that did the right thing in ending this pregnancy.
I mean, look at how stupid they are. Yes, if you're a Republican, you believe that there are Marxist Democrats that are elected officials at the national level. You are an idiot of the highest order. There's not one that's even close. There's not one within miles and miles and continents of it. Marxists and socialists are doing this. When you say that, what you're saying to the world is, I'm a moron and I don't know anything about politics. I don't know anything about what labels mean, Marxist. Okay, then he goes on to say, this girl was politicized for the gain of killing more babies. Okay, you guys politicized abortion for 50 straight years. You gotta vote based on pro-life, you gotta vote. Who cares? Give me your money. We're gonna give it all to the rich, but you gotta vote on abortion. Now you're talking about politicization? Get the hell out of here. And then look at what his concern is. He's literally looking to lock up the doctor. He says it on several occasions. He says, we're not only looking into her license, but we're doing a criminal investigation of the doctor who helped the little girl. So he says that was a terrible crime helping that girl. You should have forced that 10-year-old to have a birth, either, as Anna explained earlier in the show, a vaginal birth, which would, for a 10-year-old, have you met 10-year-olds? What would that do? Are you insane? Or a C-section where you rip her insides out to get the baby? For a 10-year-old.
Who's been raped.
And he thinks that's awesome. He thinks that's great, that you should punish 10-year-olds who are raped like that. And he says, and it's so bad to try to help her that he's willing to imprison the doctor who helped her. Republicans are monsters. They're terrible, immoral people. They have no morals, they have no empathy for anyone else. And Anna proved definitively to you guys that this attorney general whose job is to prosecute rapists doesn't give a damn about prosecuting rapists. He loves that those rapists are running around. He won't even test the kids. He has the kids. He will not test them. Why? There's one connecting thread. Well, if you let the rapists go, you punish women. And if you force women to have the babies of rapists, you punish the women. That's all these monsters care about, is punishing women and controlling them like they used to, like the good old days. Make America great again, when men controlled women and had them under their thumb and wouldn't let them out, wouldn't let them give them any freedom at all. So your body's my body. I control it whenever I want, and I'm gonna get tyrannical government, big government to step in and destroy you. That's what Republicans are. They're sick people. Every time I hear Biden say how much he loves Republicans, it makes me want to vomit. You piece of crap, fight them, fight them. God damn it, you're never gonna fight them. Then get the hell out of the way. Let us do it. Progressives will fight them. Get out of the way, you loser. You goddamn loser, fight them. Look at what they're doing to little girls. Look at what they're doing to women all over the country. Fight them, you monster, you idiot, fight them. No, every Democrat lays down. Pelosi lays down, and she supported an anti-choice Democrat, Henry Cuellar. Yay, after Roe. She supports anti-choice candidates. Pelosi's a monster.
Biden afterwards is now going to nominate an anti-choice judge because he loves his friend Mitch McConnell so much and he made him a promise. No, fight them, but they never will. Democratic leadership, total and utter losers. Get the hell out of the way. Get out of the way and let us at them.
All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we're gonna switch gears a little bit and get into some updates on Biden's foreign policy, and it is not looking good. We've got that and more coming right up.
All right, back on TYT, Jen and Anna with you guys, and also Simon. Simon Ray just joined by hitting the join button below. All of you, we appreciate that you join us and that you make us stronger and we fight together for actual justice in the world. Anna.
Let's get to some foreign policy.
You, in the past, said you'll do anything, and you say it again, that you'll ensure Iran would not acquire nuclear weapons. Does that also mean, sir, that you would use force against Iran? Is that what that means, if needed?
That was the last resort, yes.
And would you work on Israel with that kind of thing? Have you received any assurances from Israel?
I'm not going to speculate on that, but Iran cannot get a nuclear weapon.
That was President Joe Biden during an interview with an Israeli news network saying that he would be willing to go to war with Iran to prevent them developing nuclear weapons, which is a huge problem considering one of the other promises he reneged on was re-entering the Iran nuclear deal, which prevented Iran from developing nuclear weapons. You know, the nuclear deal that Donald Trump ripped up and actually made the world a little less safe by doing so. Now, Biden also reiterated that he's committed to keeping the Islamic Revolutionary Guard on the US State Department's foreign terrorist organizations list, even if it means sinking the prospects of a deal to revive the nuclear accord that former President Donald Trump violated in 2018. And I want to note that there were some negotiations between Biden and political leaders in Iran. These negotiations happened in Vienna earlier this year to restore the nuclear deal. But since Biden is unwilling to loosen the sanctions, the deal fell apart. Well, if they're willing to re-enter the Iran nuclear deal, why wouldn't you lift the sanctions? Anyway, here was his blunt response regarding taking the IRGC off the State Department's foreign terrorist organizations list.
Are you committed to keep the IRGC on the foreign terrorist organization list, even if that means that kills the deal?
Yes.
Now, it doesn't matter how hawkish Biden's answers might be because the leadership in Israel, the leader of Israel, not happy about this, okay? He would like to see more. So let's talk about Israeli Prime Minister Yair Lapid, who immediately contradicted Biden after Biden said, quote, "I made it absolutely clear, we will not, let me say again, we will not allow Iran to acquire nuclear weapons." And he followed that with, "I continue to believe diplomacy is the best way to achieve this outcome." Lapid not interested in the diplomacy aspect of this. He wants a much more hawkish military approach. And he says, quote, "Words will not stop them, Mr. President. Diplomacy will not stop them," he said. "The only way to stop them is to put a credible military threat on the table." Well, good luck to you. The United States should not be involved in that. You want us to fight your war? By the way, you're escalating for no reason. So I'm supposed to work as hard as I do. All these Americans all across this country have to work as hard as they do to fund Israel's war against Iran when there is a diplomatic solution. Not interested, not interested.
Yeah, so Biden, of course, is a weak loser. So he goes and kisses Lapid's ass and says, okay, I'll try to start the war for you. I promise, I promise. Now, you might say, oh, well, that seems strong. Cenk, what do you mean try to start a war? Do you know that the Revolutionary Guard being on the terrorist list, you know who did that? Donald Trump. Why would you continue Donald Trump's policies? I thought we voted against Donald Trump, right? And do you know that that group already has tons of sanctions on it, putting it on the terrorist watch list only adds a little bit of extra sanctions on it. It's mainly symbolic. It actually, so he's saying, I'm willing to go to war, and if they have nukes, I'm willing to attack them and maybe have a nuclear war over a symbolic thing that doesn't mean a goddamn thing that Trump put into place.
Yeah.
Okay, why? To satisfy his boss, the Israeli prime minister. And what does the Israeli prime minister do? Back of his hand. He goes,
not good enough.
You weak loser, you gave me everything I wanted. Get back in there and do what I told you. Start the war already. Oh, by the way, are you gonna join us, Israel, in the war? Oh, no. We're gonna keep our citizens safe. We're gonna get you moron Americans to fight our war for us. And pay for the war too.
And pay for it after, tens of billions of dollars under the Obama administration provided to Israel for their military funding. And that's on top of the yearly foreign aid we provide to Israel, which, by the way, provides universal health care for their people. We are unable to do that here in the United States somehow, but we can fund that in another country. Great, that's awesome. By the way, if Iran really did pose a serious threat to Israel through the development of nuclear weapons, they could rejoin the Iran nuclear deal.
Yeah, that's
we could do that, right?
But Israel doesn't want that. Bennett didn't want it, Lapid doesn't want it, and obviously Netanyahu didn't want it. They don't want peace. They want us to attack Iran. Hey, Israel, look, I hate it. I don't want you to do it. I think it endangers your own citizens. I think it's a terrible idea. But if you're so hungry for war, what's stopping you? Why do we have to do it for you? I just answer the goddamn question. Why do we have to do it for you? Why don't you start your own war? You're pretty good at it. Notice though, they like to pick on defenseless people. The Palestinians don't have almost any weapons at all. They can't control their own borders. They have nothing. So every once in a while, Israel will go and bomb the living crap out of them, kill thousands of citizens, and then they'll shoot and murder doctors and reporters. But Iran actually does have conventional weapons. And that could actually hurt Israel. So they're like, no, we don't want any piece of that. We want America to fight that war. Bunch of suckers that we totally control. Look at their president coming here on his knees. It's unbelievable.
It's not unbelievable. This is the most predictable reaction and response from Biden. I do want to make one correction because I did notice that some of the reporting indicated or alleged that the US State Department's foreign terrorist organizations list is not that big of a deal. It's mostly a symbolic gesture. It's not. It's actually a huge deal. And this is the type of stuff that cripples Iran. And most importantly, it cripples the people of Iran, okay? Same with Cuba. Trump did this with Cuba as well. The reason why it's not just symbolic is because think about it. If America, a superpower that has this massive military, notes that this country is on their terrorist list, other countries are far less willing to do any business with those countries because they're worried that that would ruin their relationship and their trade partnership with the United States.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that you understood. They already had tons of sanctions on them.
Yeah.
This is layered on top.
Yes.
Okay, now important things, to be fair. So first of all, Iranian Revolutionary Guard, I don't want anybody to mistake what we're saying. Iranian Revolutionary Guard, terrible, okay? The government of Iran, terrible. It's an authoritarian, theocratic government. We got no interest in them. In fact, the idea of them having nuclear weapons is a disastrous idea. That's why you should re-enter the deal, which was 100% working.
Yes.
They had no uranium, they had no way to make nuclear weapons because of that deal. But no, war, because right-wingers in Israel and right-wingers in America just lusting for war. Now, to be fair though, there was terrorism involved here. There was terrorism. Several of the Revolutionary Guard were assassinated, just shot, killed, dead cold in the streets. Oh, but Israel did that. Is Israel on the terrorist watch list? They assassinate civilian physicists in Iran, professors. They murdered an Iranian professor who was a civilian in front of his kids as he was picking up the kids from the kindergarten class. But Israel's not on the terrorist watch list. They just murdered Shireen Abu Akleh, one of the most renowned journalists in the Middle East. They shot her in the head and they murdered her.
Yep.
Even CNN acknowledges it. Is the Israeli Defense Force on the terrorist watch list? Oh, no, in Washington, these are unacceptable questions because we're right and they know we're right.
That's why they're like, shh, you're not allowed to talk about it. Well, too bad. We are talking about it. Last thing, when Biden was there, he also, just to make everybody even more happy, took a shot at progressives. God. And so in that same interview, when asked about progressives who were saying, hey, maybe we should treat the Palestinians as human beings, he said, quote, there are a few of them, I think they're wrong, I think they're making a mistake, okay? So dismisses progressive, he goes and attacks progressives. Now remember, there's groups like AIPAC, Democratic Majority for Israel, et cetera, that are spending millions upon millions of dollars against progressives in primary elections today. They're probably now the #1 enemy, political enemy of progressives. We didn't ask for that fight, they asked for that fight. They spent all that corrupt money in all those races. And what does Biden do? Because he's a corporate Democrat, he's like, oh, I love you guys, I love you. Keep giving me corrupt money. Oh yeah, you're right, progressive. Okay, and then he says, but he's never good enough for Biden. So then, you know what else he said? He said, there's no possibility, I think, of the Democratic Party or even a significant portion of the Republican Party walking away from Israel. So he says, don't get me wrong, the people who are really guilty in America are progressives, but I'm 100% a dog of Israel and I will do anything. But hey, also remember, Republicans love you too.
Unbelievable.
Why are you saying that? Why are you saying that? What is wrong with you? So he attacks his own, and then he says, no, Israel, don't forget though, my lovely, wonderful Republican friends, they also love Israel. Why are you doing an ad? Why are you doing an ad for Republicans there? Guy's a total and utter loser. It doesn't matter, I can say anything I want right to his face, and he's not gonna do a goddamn thing about it. Yeah, I'm a progressive, so he would save all of his political weapons for us. He would never touch his beloved Republicans and his beloved donors. But come at me, Biden, come at me. You're not gonna even do that. You're so weak. You're the weakest man I've ever met. So go kiss more ass, that's all you're good at.
More importantly, don't run again. Just step aside. We need a real leader in this country. You ain't it. All right, when we come back from the break, we'll talk about how the right-wing Family Research Council has just scored tax-exempt status, even though all they do is right-wing political activism to strip you of your rights. We'll be right back.
All right, back on TYT, Cenk, Anna, Patricia, Silvino, and Mr. Briefs with you guys. Silvino Orozco. They all just joined by hitting the join button below the video on YouTube. You guys are awesome. You make this show possible. Without you, there is no show. There is no voice like this. Everybody, you can join easily and get all the benefits, including all of our shows at tyt.com/join. All right, Anna.
Let's talk a little bit about how the IRS is doing all these favors for right-wing activists. The Family Research Council, a right-wing conservative think tank that staunchly opposes abortion and equal rights for members of the LGBTQ community, has just been designated a tax-exempt church by the IRS, which is laughable because it's anything but. Now, this tax-exempt status not only allows them to dodge paying taxes, they're also now able to hide who funds them. How convenient. So the website for the Family Research Council states the following: we are a nonprofit research and educational organization dedicated to articulating and advancing a family-centered philosophy of public life. In addition to providing policy research and analysis for legislative, executive, and judicial branches of the federal government, Family Research Council seeks to inform the news media, the academic community, business leaders, and the general public about family issues that affect the nation from a biblical worldview. So let's just be clear. This is not a place of worship. This is not a church you go to on Sundays for mass. This is a literal right-wing think tank full of theocratic zealots who want to control our lives. And they have just been granted tax-exempt status and have been noted as a church by the Internal Revenue Service. Unbelievable. And so we'll get to the details on what this means exactly. I want to tell you exactly how they're able to avoid certain disclosures that we should know about when it comes to these individuals and who funds them.
Uneven playing field. If all the Democratic and progressive organizations should immediately declare themselves churches, because it apparently doesn't mean anything. They have nothing to do with a church. It's absurd. I mean, as you'll see in the details, there's no place of worship. There's no place to pray. They say, oh, sometimes we pray on our own. Yes, so do you know what?
So do we.
So do we.
Yeah.
Okay, so why? Okay, you know what? Young Turks, now tax exempt organization. Okay, now of course they would say no, you're not allowed. But the right wing does it. They're like, oh, right away, sir, because we wouldn't want the right wing to yell at us. Plus, half the people that work in the government are right wing, so they're like, oh, a way to cheat and make sure they can hide their corrupt donors and pretend to be a church and get tax exempt status. The right wingers in government go, yes, I love it, let's cheat. And the Democrats in government go, I don't want Fox News to yell at me, okay, yeah. What part of it is a church? It's a lobbying group. It's literally a lobbying group.
Yeah, from its perch at the heart of the nation's capital, the Family Research Council has pushed for legislation banning gender-affirming surgery, filed amicus briefs supporting the overturning of Roe v. Wade, and advocated for religious exemptions to civil rights laws. And I want you guys to understand how we have arrived at this moment, because this story is more than just what the Family Research Council was able to do by getting tax exempt status. This specific story is proof of the massive victory of a 50+ year effort by the right wing in America, who were so furious about the fact that their segregated private schools had lost tax exempt status under the Nixon administration. That is what launched the culture war on the right, okay? That's how they galvanized anti-choice voters. They got them all together and they went forward with this effort to strip us of our rights, but more importantly, to ensure that the system is specifically set up in a way that allows them to benefit financially. Paul Weyrich is the specific guy, and by the way, he died a hideous death. I loved reading about it, you should read about it as well. Sorry, love to admit it. But that man was so furious about integration in schools. He loved segregation. And when integration began and all of these religious evangelical leaders across the country started forming their own private institutions so only white students could go to them, the government's like, yo, no, you can't, you're gonna lose your tax exempt status, we can't do this. And that happened under Nixon. And now under Biden, a Democratic president, we have the IRS handing a massive victory to the movement that Paul Weyrich started back in the 1970s.
Yeah, that's school. I just want you to understand, the most important part of that was they did not want black students in their schools. And they're like, well, I want to be able to be racist and also keep the money. And so that's what motivated them in the first place. And this is really important, guys. It's not just that they're a lobbying group that doesn't have anything to do with being a church. Is this your version of Christianity? I mean, look, I'll pull the right wing line. Moderate Christians, where are you? Because right now, the only people representing you in public are these monsters who don't give a damn about what Jesus said, helping the poor and the needy. There's nothing they would like to do less. They have no interest in that. They built this fake Christianity of racism and oppression and discrimination on top of your religion. What are you gonna do about it? Are you gonna fight back? Or are you gonna say to the rest of the world, yes, they do represent us. We're all monsters like that. All we want is to be able to lobby the government, get advantages for our corrupt, rich benefactors, and make sure that we do racism and oppress women. And of course, oppress gay people. Oh, the others, right? This guy, this Family Research Council is one of the biggest lobbying groups of my life. I've covered this group for 2 decades now. They're very powerful. They could have enormous power within the Republican Party. And now all of a sudden they're a church. So I'll give you one part that I just loved. A ProPublica reporter called them and asked about their service times. Because if they're a church, he's like, oh, I'd like to come to service. And so when's your service time? And the person on the phone said, we don't have church service.
Of course not.
Of course not, because they're a lobbying group, okay? So, and the IRS is like, no, we don't care about reality. We don't care about truth. No, we care about political correctness. And the politically correct thing to do is to declare that they're a church when we know for a fact that they're not.
So here's why this is dangerous, okay? So we talk about the financial element to this because they don't have to pay taxes. They're tax exempt based on what the IRS has classified them as. But since they don't have to file their taxes, that means that they don't have to disclose certain things. Once the IRS blessed it as an association of churches, the Family Research Council was no longer required to file a public tax return known as a Form 990. Revealing key staffer salaries, the names of board members and related organizations, large payments to independent contractors and grants the organization has made. Unlike with other charities, IRS investigators can't initiate an audit on a church unless a high-level Treasury Department official has approved the investigation. So look, this also helps protect the privacy of the individuals who fund think tanks and lobbying groups like the Family Research Council to strip us of our rights. So they get to do it with their privacy protected. That's the other element of this. And I would venture to say outside of being able to save some money from having to pay taxes, this is something that they care deeply about because they don't, look, people are fired up in this country. So much so that they're willing to take to the streets. They're willing to protest in front of Supreme Court justices' homes. And they just want to destroy your rights. They just want to take away your freedoms without all that annoying, protest. They don't want to hear from you. So that's a huge part of this as well.
And last thing is, I just want you to remember that the churches are supposed to be tax exempt because they are not political. They are not allowed to be political. The whole point of Family Research Council is to be political. So this is total Alice in Wonderland alternate reality. And in fact, if you're still not sure, Tony Perkins has said, quote, and signed as the president of Family Research Council, quote, there is no doubt President Donald J. Trump is the lawful winner of the presidential election in 2020. Oh no, they don't do politics, they're just a church. No, they're a right-wing organization that is a lobbying group, and the IRS 100% caved into them and has lied and cheated on their behalf.
One thing I want to mention before we go to break, we're done with that story, but this is something that was brought to my attention just now. The Attorney General in Texas has filed a lawsuit challenging Biden's guidance to perform abortions in emergencies where the mother's life is at risk.
They don't care about life at all, at all. All they care about is finally we've got women under our thumbs again. If you're a woman and you vote for a Republican, you're an idiot, total idiot, giving away all your rights and voluntarily signing up to get oppressed. Have at it, Hoss.
All right, we got to take a break. When we come back, Politico and the New York Times just want to tell you that everything is going great. You should be happy and optimistic. We'll be right back.
Thanks for listening to the full episode of The Young Turks. Support our work, listen ad-free, access members-only bonus content, and more by subscribing to Apple Podcasts at apple.co/TYT. I'm your host, Cenk Uygur, and I'll see you soon.